Welcome back, everybody. My name is Joshua, your first impression expert, and I have something to share with you, and that is the first impression paradox. If you haven't joined this channel before or are watching this video, you might be wondering, what is a first impression? A first impression can be made in several different ways. We often think of it only as a face-to-face encounter. We think of it as engaging with somebody, usually through eye contact, handshake, or conversation, but in actuality, it happens much sooner. So first impressions start as soon as somebody looks at an image of you online, or looks at some copy or article that you've written. A first impression can be either your greatest asset or your worst enemy. You get to decide this, though. This is up to you. I believe it to be extremely important that everybody harnesses the power of their first impression. This is the one thing that you get to control in your social sphere and influencing other people, helping them build trust in you and authority in you, making life go that much smoother. And the reason why first impressions are permanent is for two scientific reasons. The first is called the halo effect, and the second is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. The halo effect is a really interesting effect discovered by scientists, in which essentially says that when you meet somebody or see something of somebody and you have a positive or negative reaction, you will go ahead and blanket statement that all over the entire person. So if you had a great interaction, somebody opened up the door for you, you have a great interaction with them, even though they might be a jerk to everybody else and everybody else sees them as a jerk, you had this one positive experience, and therefore you see everything they do through the lens of a positive experience, a positive person, where everybody else sees more of an honest truth. That's the halo effect. And the self-fulfilling prophecy is just kind of how it sounds. It's actually when you meet somebody or you have that interaction and you have a negative experience with them or a less than desirable experience, and you place them in kind of the bad category of people you don't want to be around, well, guess what? The next time you hang out with them, you're going to go ahead and probably be less desirable and less trying to impress them, and that's going to lead them to being a bigger jerk or whatever other things that you've kind of already imbued on them. And lastly, and probably the most important, is that if you don't make a great first impression, there's highly unlikely you're ever going to get another opportunity to do it. And this is probably the biggest issue of them all, is that when you make that bad first impression, if you get that second impression and you're not aware of how that person's reacted to you the first time, the second time, guaranteed, you're probably never going to change their mind, and it will take many, many more interactions in a positive way for them to shift how they view you, which obviously loses a lot of opportunities because statistically, most people will never give you more than a second chance. But rest assured, I have come up with a very simple method to achieving this first impression paradox and winning people's favor. I call it my RPM method, and it has helped hundreds of other people improving their first impression. The first in the RPM method is to review social strategies. Now, this one's really important. Like I said before, most interactions and first impressions are formed with people that have never met you before. They're simply looking you up online. They're either finding you through some sort of social platform or blog or articles that you've written. So if this is the case, you want to go ahead and log into all your social profiles, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the ones that display an avatar, a picture of you. And you want to go ahead and see if this picture is relevant to who you are and how you want others to perceive you. If you are an entrepreneur and you want to be thought of as a thought leader, it may not be best to have a picture of you in Hawaii on the beach with a jet ski or people on jet skis behind you. That's generally probably not going to be the best because it's not showing the hard-working mentality that a thought leader is thought to have. So that's just one quick example of social strategies. The second part of that is the writing. The writing needs to be professional and poised, and that's going to be really important to creating more trust and authority. Reduce any spelling errors and make sure what you say is short and concise. The second is to practice. Practicing is one of the most important things that you can do to improve your first impression. So this goes along with not only getting new avatars or pictures of yourself online, improving your writing, but very relevant when it comes to face-to-face interactions. Making great eye contact, shaking hands with a solid handshake. These things really go a long way into building trust in another person, so that way doors open up for you. A few different ways to practice that I like to do is I will sit in front of a mirror and stare at myself. It is actually challenging to do that. If you've never done that before, I encourage you to set a timer for 1 minute and go ahead and start the timer and stare at yourself in the mirror, making direct eye contact with yourself, looking at yourself. You could smile, you could squint, you can do all those things, but the goal is not to break eye contact. When that minute is done, check in with yourself and see how you felt. Now, you might be a little rough on yourself. At least I was the first time I did this. I saw a lot of imperfections and a lot of things I did not like about myself, but it gave me that opportunity to realize things that I didn't really care about and I wanted to go ahead and change. So I did this again the next day, and I found that because I had thought about it a little bit, I wasn't making those same mistakes. This led to an improvement of my eye contact and handshaking and all these other little social cues that become very important when making a solid first impression. And the third and most important is matching body language. Now, when you first meet somebody, you may not have a whole lot of time to match somebody's language, but when you see somebody and you're approaching them, see if they're in a calm and relaxed state, an agitated state, some other state that you can identify, and go ahead and see if you can match that energy. When you match another person's energy or body language, they instantly start to get in sync with each other, meaning the two bodies become in sync, and that person will feel more trust. So especially when they're agitated, if you come in with a sense of that same sort of agitation, the body will recognize that two people are in that space, and then what you can do is help them transition out of that space in this particular example. But when it comes to winning trust, it's going to go ahead and want to encourage them to be in a calm and relaxed state. But I guarantee you this is something that's very fascinating. But if you have a business meeting or a next meeting in which you are all sitting down or even standing up, go ahead and make a body shift or position, maybe crossing the legs or putting a leg up on your knee, something like that, or putting the hand up here as you're talking, and do this for about a minute. Don't change. Just watch. After about a minute, you'll start seeing people slowly start to match you. This is a very natural thing. People want to be congruent with each other. So when somebody is doing something, a certain body language, the other bodies will naturally mimic that to be in rapport with that person. And to be in rapport with another person is just as powerful. This is not necessarily a power play so much as a relationship building play. This is something that you can do to build massive rapport with somebody that takes no effort at all. It simply just requires you to match what that other person is doing. Now you've learned some of the secrets of this RPM method and what you can do to the first impression paradox that plagues us all, and start introducing this into your life, and you will start to see an improvement in your own relationships and the relationships in the future. I want to thank you so much for watching. Next week, I'm going to be covering the 3 biggest mistakes people make in the first impression. So please like and subscribe below. It means a lot to me, and I'm pumping out videos every Friday right now. So I appreciate it, and I will see you all next week.